Okay, look at this. I went to all the trouble to actually put together a PowerPoint for you last night. Good on me. So it is member recruitment, grassroots volunteers driven versus paid staff driven. So let's talk about the professional staff. So why do we want to consider the professional staff driving member recruitment? Well, number one, they get stuff done because that's their job. They're paid to do it. And we all know on the other side with volunteers, we've all heard, well, I've got a full-time job. I'm just a volunteer. I don't have time. The other thing that is consistency. If the paid staff is doing it, there's a little bit more consistency again because it is their job that they're going to spend X amount of hours every day working on recruitment. Dedicated resources. The paid staff, now things may have changed a little bit since the pandemic. It used to be when everybody was in the office together, all the materials were right there at hand's reach. Now, with a lot of associations having a virtual office, it might not be as strong an issue as it once was, but dedicated resources, meaning all of the stuff they need is right there in the office. Hopefully, if they're virtual, they'll have that in their home office. The next thing is clear message. Paid staff, they're paid to understand the association or society's premise, value proposition, what we're trying to communicate to the marketplace, and their value message is a little bit more clear than would be volunteers. The other thing, paid staff, they'll have more knowledge about the organization as itself. Even with volunteers, I'll never forget once I was speaking at in Florida. It was one of the state swimming pool association, and we're talking about some of the benefits that the organization delivers. And one of the board members puts his hand up and says, "Hey, why am I always getting my website being pinged from the association's website?" And I said to the board member, I said, "Well, they're sending you leads." And he said, "Oh, I didn't know that." And as I caught the eye of the executive director at that time, standing behind him, rolling her eyes, after she said, "I send out emails all the time about this." So the thing with a paid staff person, they're going to have better knowledge of what the association is actually doing to help the members. Then there's the outsider perspective. When you've been in an industry, you get somewhat jaded about the good, the bad, what's important, what's not important. If you're a paid staff person, even if you've been a staff person for the association for quite a long time, you don't have that jading of being in the industry. So these are some of the reasons for professional staff driving member recruitment. So let's now talk about some of the reasons maybe for the volunteer leaders driving member recruitment. Number one, they're going to be, quite frankly, more authentic. So if I'm somebody talking to a colleague about membership in the organization, and I'm going to be talking about my experience, they know that I'm coming from the heart rather than I'm a staff person trying to sell membership. So I think that's a good thing. Peer-to-peer value. Your members are going to have more access to their peers. It's going to be easier for them to connect with their peers as opposed to the paid staff. So there's a great value to that. More bodies available, more persons available. Okay, if you have paid staff in your, how many people do you have in your association actually trying to recruit members as far as, that's a big part of the job. 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 max. Okay. Well, what about your members? Maybe you've got 200, 500, 1,000 members, whatever the number is, out there. And if they're talking to their colleagues, it's just more touches to the marketplace. The other benefit of the volunteer leaders driving member recruitment is they're going to have personal examples of their value. As opposed to paid staff, they're going to talk about, well, our members have told us this, our members have told us that. Okay, that's good. But when an actual member says, hey, let me tell you about how I receive value from this, or how I receive value from that, or how the association saved me money on doing this, it's going to be more real because it's very personalized. This is how I saved money or made money. Industry jargon. So we talked about not being jaded with the paid staff. However, the people within the industry that are the functionals, they really understand the jargon that's being used in the industry. They understand the terms. They understand what's being said. They can talk the industry talk. Now, yes, when a paid staff person has been with the association for 10 years and longer, they can probably do a good job of the same thing, but it will take time. So there is that ability to talk the industry talk. The last thing, and I think is probably as important as anything, is the passion. If I really give a hoot about my trade association and professional society, and I'm getting value, I'm going to be passionate about it. I'm going to actually become a member recruitment evangelist. I'm going to be sharing all of the things that that the organization does that I care about, and that's very persuasive to their colleagues. So if we want to help our members to be better or to become member recruitment evangelists, here are some things that I think we should consider. Do our members know the benefit to them, their personal benefit, what's in it for them, for the organization to be larger? Can more benefit be created through programs, through services? Do we have a greater voice at either the State House or the National Congress as far as advocacy and legislative work? I think it's really important to help our members to be evangelists, that they really understand how it benefits them. What's in it for them, not the organization. What's in it for them, the organization, to be larger. Also, I think it's really important that you provide your members effective member recruitment tools. Now, earlier on these member ROI Zoom calls, we talked about how to build a member ROI brochure and putting the actual ROI dollars and all those kinds of things. And that isn't the only tool, but that's a great tool that they can use, not as a crutch, but rather as an aid to help them walk through the value proposition. So you've got to make sure that you're getting your members the tools if you want them to be evangelists. Another thing is recognition. Now, sometimes we don't really give recognition enough, cred. Years ago, I ran around the United States for Dun & Bradstreet, doing those all-day workshops. I learned about 8 of them. And after a while doing those, I decided to do something to create a little value for myself personally. So I handed everybody an index card. And I said, would you write down one thing that your company could do to improve your loyalty to the company? And by far, the number one response, and these were people anywhere from business owners down to functional people, to even secretarial people. I mean, the whole gambit of people within an organization and all around the country. I was doing these big cities, small cities, everywhere. Anyway, recognition was the thing that kept coming up. And it was the number one item that people would share. So I think that it's really important that you come up with ways to recognize your members that are attempting or are member recruitment evangelists. Emotional ownership in the organization. If your members really believe in the organization, then what they're going to do is they're going to want to, and I'll put this in air quotes, they're going to want to shout it from the rooftops as to the value that your organization delivers to them. And I think that that's something that you want to work on, helping them to have that emotional ownership. The other thing, I think you really want to start looking, who are your members that are highly engaged? I mean, they may not be volunteer leaders. They may not be on the board. They may not be committee chairs, but they're just highly engaged in the association or society. And it's those people that you want to seek out and you want to start helping to become member recruitment evangelists. And the last thing I'll say about this is get out of their way. They may not do it perfectly. They may be contrarians. They may not do it, the approved association way. They may not be, quiet little church mice doing, being soldiers, doing it the way you say they should do it. But if these people are out there and they're highly engaged and you get out of their way, I truly believe that they're going to do an amazing job to help you recruit members. And we'll talk about, after I close down the PowerPoint, maybe which of these two should be the lead. We'll get into that discussion. Before I do that, just going to close out this PowerPoint with, if you want my article that I wrote on this topic, here's the link to that article. I'll grab it and put it in the chat later. And the other thing I wanted to mention, don't forget,